What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines, back as always with Alex Barth. Day 18 of Patriots training camp is in the books. We're almost near the end here, Barth, but 18 practices in the books. Another competitive one down there at Gillette today ahead of the preseason finale. Not full pads. But they had the shoulder pads and shorts on and plenty of action, plenty of stuff to break down. And it was a competitive session. But Barth, I want to start in the trenches because it felt like that was one of the big takeaways from the day. And really, we've been talking about the trenches for the whole summer, for the whole year. We've been talking about the trenches for a long time. And we still have this sort of competition going on at left guard and center. Jared Wilson and Garrett Bradbury were the starters at left guard and center, but we saw Ben Brown quickly work in with both of those guys. And no matter what the lineup was, there was just a lot of pressure on Drake Maye throughout the day. And I know, training camp sacks can always be a little questionable, right? And Drake even said it after the the preseason game the other night. Like, with him and his ability to escape the pocket and not get dragged down, like the sack preseason numbers that we track can be a little spotty, but there was a lot of pressure today. Technically, I think we had 7 sacks on 18 dropbacks, so that's like 39%, which is unsustainable. But a lot of pressure, and there's still this competition going up front right now.
Yeah, and we're getting to the point now, and I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Brian. This might carry into the regular season, right? Especially if starters don't play on Thursday, which Mike Reese made a good point that they drilled them pretty hard today. That's usually a sign they're not going to participate on Thursday. Then you have 2 practices before roster cuts, and then you have a handful more to get ready for the Raiders, but you're getting ready for the Raiders. There's only so many chances to evaluate in those sorts of practices. So it seems like right now Ben Brown he's going to be on the roster, odd man out in terms of the starting lineup. But maybe a thin or a short leash for both Garrett Bradbury and Jared Wilson in that regard. But to the other thing you said, I mean, the whole offensive line struggled on Tuesday or today, I should say. It wasn't any one player. It wasn't any one position. It wasn't necessarily any one thing that gave them issues. Guys were winning one-on-ones. They were getting free with line games. There was unidentified blitzers. It was just not a good day in pass protection.
Yeah, you even had like Jabril Peppers and Carlton Davis come in, like untouched from the secondary to pile up sacks. So everyone was having a rough performance up there. But just with the 5, are you leaning kind of one way or another here? Because I would still like to see Jared Wilson getting some snaps back at center. I think like that's his best position and his long-term fit for sure. But then that would probably lean Ben Brown at guard so that's probably what I would lean for right now. Just again, I haven't been the biggest Garrett Bradbury fan entering the summer, and I don't think he's done anything this summer to really make me more confident in him, especially as a pass protector. He just can't handle power, right? He gets pushed back. So I'm almost leaning Ben Brown at guard, Jared Wilson at center, but it feels like if Ben Brown's in there, I don't know. It doesn't feel like they want Jared Wilson and Ben Brown in there. It feels like they want Ben Brown in there with Bradbury or one of those mixes. But are you leaning one way or another with that left guard and center spot?
Yeah, Brian, it's a good point. I think their best 5 maybe with Ben Brown and Jared Wilson. I also want to see Jared Wilson center. The only problem is the last time we saw him at center, he had a couple of bad snaps, and they really haven't put him back since until very briefly in the game the other day. So this goes back to what I said off the top. Like if Jared Wilson is going to play center, like that makes sense if that's competition, but he has to have time to rep there. I'd be nervous just throwing him in there cold. Maybe he can handle it. He's a smart kid, but the amount of communication between him and the rest of the linemen, between him and Drake Maye, you'd like to see him get some opportunities there, and he just hasn't had those. So that makes me think if Garrett Bradbury is coming out, it's for Ben Brown at center, who has more experience specifically with Drake Maye.
Yeah, because when Bradbury did come out, it wasn't like they're bumping Wilson over with Brown at guard. It was Wilson sticks at guard and Ben Brown at center. So it feels like, based off the lineups we've seen at practice, like if Jared Wilson is in the starting lineup, it's going to be at left guard, which, again, I'd like to see him at center. I thought you saw him there in the preseason, working with Dobbs a little bit. And I thought he looked good. Like he held up, especially in the run game for the most part. There was a one or two pass pro plays where he got beat, but I think I would take his upside and talent and just kind of live with the rookie errors right now over what you get in Garrett Bradbury, who, he has his moments in the run game, even though he had a couple, whiffs in the preseason game. But I don't think you can trust Garrett Bradbury in pass protection right now, because some team is just going to put a big dude over him and just say bull rush him into Drake May's lap every time. And I just don't think he's proven that he can kind of handle that right now.
But I guess if push comes to shove, would you be comfortable throwing him out there without much experience?
Jared Wilson?
Right? Like Jared Wilson. How much lead time do you feel like you need if and when they make the switch to Jared Wilson at center?
If they practice, I would say if they practice the rest of the way after, so you have the preseason game Thursday, if they practice the rest of the way with Jared Wilson at center, I would feel comfortable enough with that, just so he can get the snaps. Because I think, what would that be, like 4 or 5 practices maybe? Like I think that should be enough time to get some chemistry down with Drake Maye, just as snapping. And then again, I'll live with the rookie errors and the bumps and bruises that maybe pop up with Jared Wilson over what you're getting from Garrett Bradbury right now. So I'd be comfortable with it if they come back from the preseason game and say, okay, Jared Wilson's our center. Let's roll with this and let's stick with this. I'd be comfortable with that. But do you think that's not enough time? Do you feel differently about that?
Sorry, run through that scenario again.
Like they come back from the preseason finale and they say, okay, Jared Wilson is going to be our center. I know he hasn't really snapped to Drake Maye since the first week of camp, but Jared Wilson's our center. He has the 2 weeks until the regular season to get ready, and we're rolling with it. Would you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's probably the cutoff to me. Like you come back there, they play on Thursday, they'll practice on Sunday. You come back on Sunday and you drill it in, and this is the way it's going to be, because then he's getting the full amount of game prep, because they'll start preparing for the Raiders on Sunday, even with 90 players. Yeah, that would probably be the cutoff for me.
Yep. And, we'll talk about the preseason a little bit more. We'll do a preseason recap at the end of our practice show here. But do you think any of those starting guys, or like Jared Wilson, because he's a rookie, do you think any of them see action on Thursday night?
That's a good question. Wilson and Brown would be the two, because you're still trying to figure it out with them, especially off position. I don't know how valuable it is to put, Jared Wilson at left guard next to Mike Onwenu, who's just going to make it, not Mike Onwenu. Wow, why did I do that? Vidarian Lowe, who's just going to make his life tougher. Like, I don't want to say no, because I think rookie get all the experience they can get, but I'm not sure how much you're going to learn from putting them out there. If you just feel like they need snaps, yeah. I guess. I don't know that that's the setting where you're going to necessarily learn, okay, this guy should be our starting left guard, or this guy should be our starting center. But if you just want them blocking other NFL players to get that experience, I mean, it couldn't hurt.
Yeah. Especially if, Wilson was a little dinged up last week, right? If there's still something there, it might not be worth risking it. But it does seem like, most of the starters are going to kind of sit down. So back to like your first point, this competition, the next real like live snaps is going to be in the regular season. So this thing could kind of trickle into the regular season. And now they're spending September trying to still figure out their best 5, especially at that left guard and center spot. But I will say practice ended on a high note, and they finally got some protection at the end of practice today. And it was another one of those end to half situations, which have been one of the biggest struggles for Drake Maye and that top offense throughout the summer. They hit on a big chunk play to Hunter Henry. So that's an area where in those drills specifically, they struggled hitting that first kind of chunk play to get things going. So they got that really pretty ball to Hunter Henry, and then, they worked in the field goal range. So positive from today. They got the end of half situation correct there.
Yeah, they needed that. Really, 2 of them, because they got a second kind of quick one where they just had to get up and spike the ball. But that first one, it was, they've technically hit a couple this summer, but one was on a Hail Mary, another was on a 4th down. Just unbelievable catch from Kayshon Boutte, the thing you don't really want to count on week in and week out. And today it was more, it was methodical. They had kind of one big play to Hunter Henry up the seam, but it was much more short stuff, staying ahead of the sticks. Maye was on schedule, got some help after the catch from Pop Douglas and Travion Henderson, and they got in field goal range, which is what they needed. So It wasn't one of these one big play and around a bunch of mess. Like it was started a little rough. He overthrew Matt Collins, but after that he settled in, and I thought it was much better. And thought it was interesting what Kayshon Boutte said about it after practice too. Just like, we know that's unacceptable. We just, he kind of talked about it as a mindset thing that they really need to kind of elevate in those situations.
Yeah. They hit the chunk play was the second play that Maye completed 4 out of his next 5, just kind of short. I will say, like, they only needed a field goal, so it's not like they had to settle for a field goal, right? Like, they ended with centering the ball. They did one of those where Maye, snaps it and then runs over to the middle hash and takes a knee and then spiked it. So they had time to play with. They only needed a field goal, which Andy Borgals then made. So we'll get to the kickers too. But encouraging to kind of see them end on a high note there. But you mentioned the miss to Mac Hollins. We saw a couple of those sprays to Mac, or just throughout the day to a couple different receivers from Drake. Is that worrying you at all? Kind of the accuracy throughout the summer, the preseason game, there were the high throws. Is just the sprays and the accuracy a worry with you for Drake at this point of the summer?
Yeah, there's the sprays have become a little bit more in the last week and a half. I don't know if that's because maybe they're starting to put some of the more complex stuff in and he has to think more or whatever. I have noticed an uptick. So whatever that is, that's got to come down before the start of the season. I don't know that I'm any more worried about his accuracy than I was last year, but it's always been a question, and that question's still there.
Yeah, the sprays do kind of feel like part of his game, and you might just have to live with that as long as they're not, as Vrabel said, over the middle, resulting in interceptions. That's when it gets really dicey, and you want to cut those. But it does feel like he's going to spray one every now and then. I'll say with the high throws in the preseason game, like, he said he was juiced up, amped up. He didn't get the chance to he played 2 drives. Like, he didn't get the chance to come back and settle down and see how he looks throughout the rest of the games. And I was just talking to Taylor. Like, we've seen Tom Brady do that for 20 years. Come up a little too amped up and miss some passes early, look a little unsettled, and then settles down completely and finds his rhythm. So I didn't look too much into those like high preseason throws, but you do see the occasional spray there, here and there from Drake. But no turnovers today, so that was encouraging. Anything else offensively kind of stand out to you in the drills? A lot of pressure. They're down just a ton of receivers as a whole, but anything else on the offense?
Mac Hollins getting a ton of run.
Yeah.
Ton of run. He's had a good summer too. I know some Patriots fans were hesitant about his presence. I'm not saying he's going to answer the long-standing wide receiver question they've had here. But like, he's going to be, for better or worse, he's going to be a significant part of this offense. And he's looked good this summer. So he's looking like a player that should have a relatively significant role. We'll see if that continues when we get to the regular season.
Definitely. I think 4 more targets today from Drake, so looking his way a lot. Do you put anything into Stephon Diggs catching a pass from Josh Dobbs today, or is it just they're down like 4 or 5 receivers right now? They just need to give Josh Dobbs people to actually throw the football to, and that's why Steph Diggs was out there with them for just a couple snaps and caught 2 passes from him.
I think it's some of that, and I think some of it is they've spent the last 2 days starting to get the 2 units a little more familiar with each other. Like, at one point, Drake Maye, I don't remember who ultimately caught the pass, but I think yesterday Drake Maye had a snap with Jeremiah Webb. I don't know if he threw to him, but like, he was out there. So I think some of that is just rotation and some of it is like they don't have that many guys to rotate. And then on top of that, you want to get different receivers and different quarterbacks used to each other just in case. Remember, they used to do that. Like, they would do a full period of practice like that under Bill, where they would, the starting offense would be in for the most part, but they rotate 1 or 2 guys every couple plays. And it was a big deal. I remember when Bailey Zappi took the snap with the first team offense. And then the next day, Bill Belichick was like, oh yeah, no, we had the backup quarterback working with the starters. Very quickly put that down. So I don't know, the guy's coming off torn ACL. Maybe there was something to it, but I didn't see it as anything that was incredibly out of place for the stage of training camp.
Yeah. And again, they're down Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, Kyle Williams, Efton Chisholm, and Kendrick Bourne. So they're down 5 receivers out there. And, Pop caught a pass from Josh Dobbs. Mac Hollins caught a pass from Josh Dobbs. But I think that was, they've worked in sporadically with Dobbs throughout the summer. That was kind of the first time we've seen Diggs do it. But down a lot of bodies. So let's jump over to the defense. Barth, I think one of the big things over the last 2 days especially is K'Lavon Chaisson has been the top edge rusher across from Harold Landry on the defensive line. We've talked a lot about him. He's had a great summer. He was good again today. Got Will Campbell for a couple pressures, it looked like. But where do you think this leaves Keon White? Because they did, split those fields at the end where it looks like, the starters are running sprints and the backups are kind of running the scout team to get ready for what we would imagine is Thursday night. And Keon White is over there with the scout team and looking like he's going to get ready to play Thursday night. So is this like K'Lavon Chaisson has just been so good that they're elevating him to this top unit, or are you a little bit more worried about Keon White and his progression through, the first 3 weeks of camp here?
I mean, Mike, it's weird because Mike Smith raved about Keon White when he spoke before practice day. I don't know if you were there for that, Brian, but he called Keon White, I think he called him like the smartest prospect he's ever coached.
Yeah, and he said, like, if he can put it all together, like, the league is basically should be on notice, so high praise.
Look, K'Lavon Chaisson has certainly had a summer that has earned him more playing time, and that has to come from somewhere. Harold Landry's been good the last couple of days, not that Keon White hasn't, but he's the veteran, and we know they like him, so it's ultimately gonna be a rotation there. Does K'Lavon Chaisson if K'Lavon Chaisson continues to play the way in the regular season he's played in camp, he should be a 3-down player. He should be part of your primary pass rush package. And then you debate whether that means taking Keon White or Harold Landry out the field. It was Keon White today. If this camp for Harold Landry is just kind of a flash and he comes back down to earth, I don't think Keon White has done anything to put his spot in jeopardy. I think Chaisson's just been better within him and past him. Like, you can do that. You can pass people on the depth chart even when those people are playing well, if you're just playing even better. And I think that's what K'Lavon Chaisson's done. But now we got to see. I mean, this is a guy that's never had more than 5 sacks in a season. And he hasn't looked like that in camp. He's looked like a first-round pick in camp, like the first-round pick he was for the Colts, a few years ago. So if he can keep this up, great. But I am still a little got to see it to believe it territory with K'Lavon Chaisson. I'm very encouraged. That's not to knock the guy, but got to see it translate.
It would be interesting, and I don't know how you would figure this out except like talking to people in Vegas or Jacksonville. Like if K'Lavon Chaisson and his pass stops have like had really good summers and been like a training camp kind of standout and then just fizzles once the regular season starts, or if this is something new for him and maybe it's a sign he is turning the corner. But he has been really good. Like, he's near the top of our plugger of the day standing. So he has had a really good summer, and it does seem like he deserves more snaps. So right now that's just coming at the expense of Keon White. But we'll see.
So I just Googled it, and I found an article here last year on blackandteal.com. So some Jaguars site, former Jaguars draft bust off to strong start in Panthers training camp. So that was last year.
I mean, Raiders training camp?
I think he was with the Panthers and they cut him, right?
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right, so he could have had that strong of a camp if that Panthers team cut him at roster cut.
He got cut, yeah.
All right, so that kind of undoes that. But yeah, I remember that. He was with the Panthers last year, got cut as part of roster cuts. I think he was on the Raiders practice squad for a few weeks before he even got the call. So clearly not that strong of a summer last year.
All right. So maybe he turned the corner. Maybe K'Lavon Chaisson turned the corner because he has looked really good this summer. Yeah. He definitely, if that's why he's repping over Keon White, he definitely deserves more playing time there and deserves that elevated role. So good for Chaisson. And then, we talked a lot about the pressure and the whole defensive line just as a whole. Like, just watching Milton Williams and Christian Barmore get after the passer are a joy to watch because both of those guys were in the backfield a lot today. Milton Williams also had a pass deflection off Maye up front. So those two guys, we don't always get to see them together because Barmore is on this plan still where he's limited. But when they are out there together, they look like that duo that I think you kind of projected when they signed Milton Williams and you imagined him next to a healthy Christian Barmore because they were pushing the pocket and they were wrecking havoc along that interior of the offensive line, the Patriots offensive line. That was shuffling bodies in and around. Right. They looked like a group that should take advantage of them, and they did today.
Yeah.
So not much in the secondary, I think, but anything else on the defensive side to wrap that up?
I think that's it.
All right. So we'll end with kickers. Good day for both of those guys, Borregales and Parker Romo, 4 of 4, working between 32 and 49 yards. They each had a make. Borregales, that end of half drive we talked about, he made his. And then they kind of scripted one for Parker Romo to get one, and he made his. So perfect day for the kickers. This competition, are you leaning one way or another here, like strongly? I feel like it's kind of tough to have a strong opinion unless you just lean with the rookie and the draft pick that much. But this does still feel really close here going into the last preseason game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think so. That's where, like, if I had to judge who's winning the competition, I will say, and we were talking about this with Mike Reese the other day, the fact Borregales got more work in Minnesota. It was the first time they didn't split things up 50-50, both in the practice and in the games, practices and in the game. Borregales had a little more of a workload than average. That tells me they might be leaning his way, but it still seems pretty close to me.
Yeah. Do you look into him getting the first attempt in that end of half drive, like the true end of half drive? It was Borregales. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So that kind of plays in to that workload as well, that he's going first in that situation. But the other thing, just with the operation, any concern with Julian Ashby? Because, we mentioned kind of the operation was shaky on that 57-yarder that Borregales missed in the game. It looked like today, especially on one of Parker Romo's, there was kind of a low inside snap. The snaps are very inconsistent. So that's something to watch. But any concern there with, the rookie draft pick lawn snapper there?
I mean, there's been a couple shaky snaps. There's going to be concern that comes with that. So I don't know if it's any more complicated than that. Like, you want to see him clean it up. They don't have another long snapper on the roster right now. So it's his job, right? They have to have a long snapper. Right now, there's no competition. But you need him to clean things up. I don't think they'd jump the gun too quick because they drafted the guy. I think he might have a little bit more leash than normal. But after, it's been a really good summer for special teams. Long snapper's a position that, even if everybody else is doing things right, can kind of, I mean, that's every position in football, but, that's a position that needs to hold up. A lot of things can go wrong from there. So we'll see what happens. But the fact they haven't brought anybody in, like, if they start bringing guys in, I think I'd be a lot more concerned, because it means they maybe see something more than we see.
What's Tucker Addington up to these days? When Tucker Addington is
he's on the Texans, we've been over this.
Oh, really?
I don't think I went over this with you. I went over this with Felger. He was not pleased with me.
Once Tucker Addington starts roaming around the streets. Oh no, he's on the
Tucker Addington was released last week.
This says he's on ESPN says he's on the Steelers. Did he just sign?
I'm seeing he was released on August 7th by the Steelers.
Oh,
he was on the Texans at one point. I know that.
Oh, I think that Addington signed a 1-year contract 1 month ago by the Steelers.
August 7th, Steelers tweeted, "We have waived long snapper Tucker Addington."
Okay. Oh, but the Steelers long snapper left Saturday's game with a chest injury. So they could have some
before or after the 7th.
That was like 2 days ago, preseason game.
Oh, so maybe they call him back, you're saying?
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, not if the Patriots can get him first, I guess.
The sweepstakes for Tucker Addington. Where were you? But no, hopefully
Tucker Addington's agent's about to have to put in a full weekend of work Labor Day weekend.
Hopefully Julian Ashby can just hammer that out. So Tucker Addington doesn't have to swing back here. But all right, that was practice today, day 18 again. So we will hear from our friends over at Prize Picks very quickly. And then we'll bounce back to talk a little preseason finale ahead of Thursday night's game. But Prize Picks wants to know if you guys know ball, and that preseason finale is coming right around the corner Thursday night, 8:00 in the Meadowlands against the New York Giants. And you can spice up the action over on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Just pick more or less on player stats like receptions, receiving yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, passing yards, sacks, interceptions, all of it is available. And even take advantage of their weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday projections can be discounted from 15 to 25%. So if you want to jump in on Taco Tuesday tonight, I know there's no Patriots football, but you can go to the Red Sox, you can go to all other MLB games or any other sports. You can find, I don't think Roman Anthony is in the lineup tonight. I think they shuffled things around a little bit, but when he is in the lineup, I throw him more than half a hit always into my Prize Picks lineup. So you can do that. Maybe pair him with some Patriots players later in the week. We'll see who's actually out there and playing. Don't think my guy Efton Chisholm, we're going to be able to use him in the lineup this week, but there should be maybe some Ben Woldridge and some good stuff there to throw into your Prize Picks lineup. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. On to the preseason.
Real quick, before we get to that, there is some news here in the last hour, and somebody put it in the comments. So Andrew Filipponi, who's a radio host in Pittsburgh and does sometimes have reports on that team, tweeted out an hour ago, source, Steelers have done some homework on Patriots wide receiver Jalen Polk. He's likely to get cut in New England. He was the 37th pick in the 2024 NFL draft, an intriguing player to trade a 7th rounder for or claim off waivers. Stay tuned. You think the Patriots get a 7th rounder for Polk? Would you do that, Brian? Would you rather do that or put him on IR and stash him for the year?
I think I would almost just rather stash him, honestly. How about you?
I might take the draft pick.
Really? You giving up already for a 7th?
I mean, we've seen how many examples are there of wide receivers essentially fully missing their first 2 years and then coming back and being successful?
None. Is there any?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's obviously not a lot. I don't know that I would do a pick swap. Where are the Steelers in the waiver order?
Where'd they draft? Like middle?
That's what I'm looking. Yeah.
Probably like 17, 18. They're usually always in that 17, 18 range.
Right. They 21.
21. Okay.
So now if you're the Patriots, you need to put out there that there's another team calling on Polk. Because if I'm the Steelers, I'm not trading for him. I'm waiting for him to go through waivers and maybe in claiming him. But, you know, if some more teams are ahead of them than not, yeah, I'd probably take the 7th round pick. But also, if hypothetically the Patriots get a 7th round pick for Jalen Polk, Kyle Duggar should very much be tradable. You should probably be talking about a 5th, if not a 4th, for Anthony Jennings. And I get that not every trade is done in the same context. And, you know, just because one team makes a bad trade, other teams won't adjust on that. But there's a handful of other guys that are going to get cut. I mean, Javon Baker, if you're going to get a 7th for Polk, you should get something for Baker.
Yeah.
I think I take the 7th.
Do you think the fact that they haven't put Polk on IR yet maybe tells you they're leaning towards that trade, or leaning towards finding that trade?
Just leaving all options open. I wouldn't be surprised if it's because they might cut him.
Yeah.
Even if he's hurt. Because just the mentality, right? He had that weird interview a couple weeks ago that just seems so against everything Vrabel's been preaching. Does it freak you out at all that it's the Steelers? I mean, no team in the NFL knows wide receivers like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Does that maybe make you look at it again? You know, it's like when you were a kid, you didn't want to play with the toy, and then the other kid comes and starts playing with the toy, and you're like, what does he see that I don't, right? Especially being the Steelers of all teams. Do you look at that, and it's like, what do they see in him that maybe we don't, or that the Patriots don't, that maybe they should take a longer look?
They see something in him. Because did they draft Roman Wilson in the 2nd round last year, or did he fall to the 3rd?
Isn't Roman Wilson on the Bengals?
No, that's Jermaine Burton's on the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
Roman Wilson, Roman Wilson like basically missed all of last year.
They drafted Roman Wilson in the 3rd round. So their wide receiver room after Metcalf is not amazing after they traded Pickens.
They just brought like Gabe Davis in for a visit. So they need a receiver.
I mean, their number 2 right now is either Roman Wilson, Robert Woods, They got whatever's left of Scott. How old is Scotty Miller now? Scotty Miller's only
Oh my
28.
gosh.
Wow. And then personally, I'm a fan of Ben Skoranek, but I will admit that he's maybe not everything you need at that position. So that's the battle for wide receiver 2 right now.
Yikes. So, okay. So you could see maybe the interest in Jalen Polk. If Polk gets
Yeah, they are going to
7,
probably have like 5 tight ends on the field at a time between Freiermuth, Hayward, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington. But
that's also true.
yeah,
They're running that 14 personnel or whatever Arthur Smith is cooking up over there. But if Polk gets a 7th, what does Kendrick Bourne get you? 5th, 6th?
Oh, I think he's more actually hurt. So there's something that comes with that. I wouldn't put it past Shanahan to give up a 6 for Kendrick Bourne.
I think that makes so much sense for him to go back to the Niners because they need receivers too.
Yeah.
But
or do you pull a fast one on the Steelers? Oh, you want Jalen Polk for a 7th? We'll give you Kendrick Bourne for a 6th or 5th and try to get more of a pick out of him. Or you give them both for multiple picks. That's probably not realistic. But
or you just at the point where like there's so many receivers dropping in New England right now where they might need Kendrick Bourne in 3 weeks and you want to keep him around and maybe put him on that IR return thing to start the year. So they still have some decisions, even though you kind of look at the 6 guys atop there and project them on the roster. Like there's going to be some interesting choices behind those guys and maybe trading some of them or keeping some around in some fashion one way or another. But all right, so we'll watch Jalen Polk, see what happens. But moving on back to the preseason Thursday night finale. Again, doesn't look like the starters are going to play. I guess just right off the bat, do you agree with that, or would you like to see Drake Maye get a series or 2, get this offensive line a little bit more time together, or are you just this is kind of week 4 of the old preseason? Like, let's just pack it up, let's get healthy, and let's get to the regular season with this thing.
It certainly seems like it's the latter. So I still think there'll be some bubble guys to watch. So I had 10 linemen on my most recent roster projection. I ultimately don't think that's what's going to happen, but it was kind of none of these guys deserve to be cut yet. So I'm going to put them all on for now to kind of say that battle's still going on. City So, Cole Strange, Caden Wallace, Vidarian Lowe, like 1-2 of those guys is going to make it. I think I had them all on. So, there'll be something there. If Javon Baker's healthy, I don't think he will be, but if he is, he's obviously playing for a job. Is there another spot open in that secondary? Does Kyle Duggar play? Like there's obviously that element. If he's going to go, it's a big week for Del Pettis. If they need depth at corner, they cut Trey Avery today. So there goes that take for me. But can Jordan Polk continue this run he's been on and maybe kind of backdoor his way into the roster? I think that's mainly what we're talking about in this game. I don't think we're looking at the starting offensive line. I don't think we're looking at, I don't think the Caleb Von Chase on Keon White question is answered significantly. It'd be a little eye-opening if Keon White plays. But I think it's more those back end of the roster bubble guys. And maybe you get Jalen Polk out there for a showcase.
Think he's just going to emerge? Jalen Polk just emerges from nowhere to play in the preseason finale? That would be something. So we'll see. But I think the backup offensive line is the big one, because for as much as the top offensive line gets the attention and, we're talking about them, like the depth behind them is a big question mark too. Like, what are they? It looks like Marcus Bryant kind of has the stranglehold for offensive tackle 3. Are they going to keep a 4th? That would probably be Vidarian Lowe. And then, the interior guys you mentioned, it feels like that's still kind of wide open, like Caden Wallace, City So at guard. Do they like Cole Strange for that center guard versatility, right? Like, it feels like there's a lot of kind of moving pieces still just on that backup offensive line. If they want to keep 10, if they want to go down to 9, and like who wins those kind of internal competitions there up front to back up the top 5 or 6 guys there.
Right. That's what you're going to be looking at. Another guy like Tyrese Robinson, he's still getting some second team reps? Is he in the mix? So yeah, to your like Ben Brown, Cole Strange, Jared Wilson, it'll be interesting to see how much they play, but those are more the kind of battles we're talking about this week.
Yep. Bubble guys. What'd you say? You have like 10 bubble spots?
So here, let me pull it up. I had 10 on. I just want to make sure I actually say, you're talking about the at-large spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't get into this on the show yesterday. I wanted to. I can kind of explain it on here. I have something up on this on 98.5thesportshub.com right now. So I do this every year, basically, which is the at-large roster spot. So NFL roster, 53 players, cutting down from 90, but it's not necessarily like a lot of people just assume best 53, and it's not necessarily that because you have to keep a certain number of players at every position. For instance, your backup quarterback is not all you have to keep 2 quarterbacks. Like every team keeps 2 quarterbacks. I know some teams keep one initially and then, they use the practice squad elevations, but that's not sustainable long term. You're going to have a second quarterback eventually. So if you have to keep 2 quarterbacks, right? Is that second quarterback, is Josh Dobbs one of the 53 best players currently on the Patriots 90-man roster? Some people might argue no, but he's going to make the team. So that's not a spot, really those 2 spots. Drake Maye was going to make the team anyway, but there's 2 quarterback spots, right? Those spots can't be won by a receiver. And the same goes on and on. Every team, just about every team, and I've gone through and I've looked at like the fewest number of players at a position that teams keep across the league. You're going to keep at least 3 running backs. You're going to keep at least 4 receivers. You're going to keep at least 2 tight ends and on and on and on. So if you just go across the board positional minimums, there are 14 spots that can be won by the best player. But that number gets cut into further. So for instance, positional minimum is 4 wide receivers. Patriots have 5 or 6 guys that are locks if you count Efton Chisholm. So that cuts into that number further. That number also doesn't include fullbacks. It doesn't include special teams aces like Matthew Slater. So at most you have 14 at-large roster spots, but usually each year that number dips a little bit and it varies from team to team. So if we're going to count Efton Chisholm as a roster lock, which I think we're doing on the show at this point,
yes,
that leaves the Patriots with 10 at-large roster spots. I had 4 spots over the minimum, 2 wide receivers. I counted Jack Westover as a lock because I think he's going to be the starting fullback / third tight end. So that doesn't go into the positional minimum. And I have them. Are we counting DJ James as a lock? Like I think we are. Let me put it this way. The minimum's actually 4 corners. I have them with 5.
Okay. I don't know if I would put him as a lock, but I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't make the team at this point.
Are you convinced they're going to keep 5 corners?
Yes.
So some teams only keep 4.
Okay.
And then they keep like a hybrid safety or whatever, which the Patriots don't really have unless they're going to keep Jordan Poole. But so that's where I get the Patriots have 10 at-large roster spots. And then I look at the players who are on the bubble, right? So whose usage in practice, in games, suggests that they have a chance to make the team. So no offense to Jeremiah Webb. Like Jeremiah Webb is not somebody I include in this group, right? Some of the guys who got cut today, Jeremy Robinson was like not somebody I considered in this. These are guys that are actually at least getting some run with the first or second unit to the point where it looks like the team's going to give them a look. So I have 19 players on the bubble. And that's essentially what this exercise is. When people talk about the roster bubble, it's qualifying the bubble. It's putting names and numbers to it. So the 19 players I have on the bubble are Jermichael Hasty, Terrell Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, Javon Baker, Vidarian Lowe, Cole Strange, Caden Wallace, Sidney So, Tyrese Robinson, Anthony Jennings, Truman Jones, Elijah Ponder, Jelani Tavai, Monty Rice, Miles Battle, Jordan Polk, Kyle Duggar, Del Pettis, Marcus Epps. Now, some guys have a better chance than others, right? Jermichael Hasty and Terrell Jennings, they're not going to keep both. They might not keep either, but they're not going to keep both. So the idea is not only are these guys might be competing within their position, but they're also competing against each other. Who's going to be more valuable to the team? Cole Strange or Jelani Tavai? Who's going to be more valuable to the team? Kyle Duggar or Anthony Jennings? And it could be both, right? It could be neither, but this is essentially what the bubble is. So I don't know, Brad, if you want to play the game, again, I'll give you the list. Jermichael Hasty, Terrell Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, Javon Baker, Vidarian Lowe, Cole Strange, Caden Wallace, Sidney So, Tyrese Robinson, Anthony Jennings, Truman Jones, Elijah Ponder, Jelani Tavai, Monty Rice, Miles Battle, Jordan Polk, Kyle Duggar, Del Pettis, Marcus Epps. And special teams and versatility is important here as well. Again, you can read more about this on 985thesportshub.com. You got to pick 10 of those 19 to make the team. Who are you taking?
I was trying to mark it down. I don't think I got all of them, but
all right. Well, let's do this. So we'll do a first pass. You got to cut 9 of these guys. And so if you go a little over on the first pass, we'll then narrow it down. Jermichael Hasty, on or off?
I'll go off for now just because I think you can get him on the practice squad.
All right. Well, I think most of these guys you get on the practice squad, honestly.
Fair.
Terrell Jennings, on or off?
Off.
Kendrick Bourne, on or off?
Off.
And obviously this number, if Bourne and Tavai project as IR players. So that would obviously, they would stay with the team and not take up a bubble spot. Javon Baker on or off?
That one's tough. I'll go.
This is
on.
a first pass, Brian.
Yeah. Okay. Just quick. I'll go on right now.
Okay. Vidarian Love.
On.
Strange.
Off.
Kane Wallace.
On.
City So.
Off.
Tyrese Robinson.
Off.
Anthony Jennings.
I wish on, but I'm going to say off.
All right. Truman Jones.
On.
Elijah Ponder.
Did you hear how Mike Smith talked about Elijah Ponder today?
Yeah. All right. We'll put him on. Tavai.
I'll still go on for now with Tavai.
Okay. Monty Rice.
Off.
Miles Battle.
Off.
Jordan Polk.
Off.
Kyle Duggar.
Off.
Del Pettis.
On.
Del Pettis on, okay. And Marcus Epps.
Off. Pettis might be off. See how many I got.
You have said you actually still have room. That was supposed to be a first pass, and you only kept 7 players.
Okay, so I have room to spare.
Including Pettis.
Perfect.
So you can still add 2 more, 3 if you want to put Tavai on IR.
Okay. Geez, I don't even know what I would add.
All right, we'll call it waiver additions. We'll call it waiver wire additions.
Yeah. You have some room, which I could totally see them going to like 51, 52 and leaving room open for a waiver claim or 2 if that's how they want to do it. So I could see them going even under the 53 to start there.
Yeah, I think they might too.
So, yeah, I don't even know who else I would add. Maybe another one of those linemen, offensive linemen. Maybe Duggar, just if they can't. I
wouldn't sleep on Hasty.
Hey, I'd not sleep it on Hasty, but I just like with Duggar, is it worth, if you can't find a trade partner, is it worth just keeping him around as an expensive backup rather than just cutting him and only saving like $1 million? Maybe. So maybe you could switch Duggar to like an on if you can't find a trade partner. But yeah, I think they could have some spots to kind of play around with at the bottom of the roster there with waiver claims and such.
Yeah. No, it kind of shows you like there's room to maneuver there.
Yeah, absolutely. So will be a big one Thursday night for a lot of those guys. Again, good chunk of players there on the bubble fighting for spots. So we'll see what happens. So make sure whatever happens Thursday night, we'll be back on Patriots Press Pass to break it down. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on your notifications so you do know when we're live. And of course, you can like this video and any other training camp video, any other content we post as well on Patriots Press Pass. There, if you're just listening on audio, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever else you do that as well. So please do that. Make sure you follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com. Barth, as I just said that, I also forgot we didn't do our plugger of the day today.
We do plugger.
So do you have one?
I do. Quickly? I am going to give it to Robert Spillane again. I think it's the 2nd day in a row, but he had a pass breakup, had a couple sacks, looked good. Even though the offense had their 1-minute drill at the end, it was too dominant of a day for the defense. I'm going to give Robert Spillane his 4th plugger. That puts him in a tie with Kayvon Chase on for the 2nd most behind Drake May. But with
did he clean house yesterday, Robert Spillane?
Oh, no. I forget who gave. Taylor gave it to Hunter Henry, and Mike gave it to Elliott Wolf.
Elliott Wolf?
Yeah.
For what?
Giving us stuff to talk about, I think, was his reason.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't think I don't think you guys get that we can both pick the same person. I feel like that's been lost in all of this. Maybe today's not today. I think it could go numerous ways, but it clearly should have been Spillane yesterday, and he'd probably be winning. I
was gonna say he probably should have got it yesterday. So I was on the fence.
I'll give you. You're a host of the show. I'll give you. Oh, you weren't there yet. I can't give you one. You weren't there yesterday. It's against the integrity.
I was on the fence today, but because Spillane only got And Spillane was in consideration for me today. I was like between him and Christian Barmore, Milton Williams. But since Spillane only got one yesterday and he had 2 interceptions, I'll give Spillane another one today because he was in the backfield a couple times. 2 of those would be sacks, got his hand on another football. He's just all over the place. He's so fun to watch. So I'll go Spillane today.
So with 2 practices to go, and we said we were going to do this until they close practices, and we found out today it's going to be full practice open to the media through roster cuts. So they'll come back, they'll practice Sunday, Monday, and then roster cuts are Tuesday. Drake Maye has 6. Robert Spillane has 5. Kaylavon Chason has 4. Pop Douglas, Matt Collins, Travion Henderson, and Efton Chisholm each have 3. Did I say Pop Douglas has 3?
Yeah.
Kayshawn Booty has 2, and then there's a handful of guys with 1. So
it's tight.
It is close. Maybe Robert Spillane gets up there.
What a late surge. What a late surge by Robert Spillane. But there's your plugger. So hopefully anyone who doesn't end the show early when we do our outro stuck around. So shout out to everyone who stuck around. You got the plugger of the day. So again, make sure you follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth985thesportshub.com for his content there. You can follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines. And head over to patspulpit.com for our training camp coverage there as well. So thanks everyone for jumping on with us today, and we will see you guys later this week.
Bye.